Welcome to the debate. The temperature inside the Los Angeles Lakers organization is rising pretty rapidly. Their defensive efficiency is ranked 22nd in the league, a number that has, well, instigated a very aggressive, high-stakes search for some perimeter help. And that search has reportedly crystallized around Sacramento's Keon Ellis, a dynamic player who might be available for a relatively modest price, one protected future first-round pick.
And that availability, that surprisingly low price point, is exactly what brings us to the core issue here. Ellis is, by many accounts from league sources, maybe the most divisive player in the league. So the real question the Lakers have to answer now is whether his aggressive, high upside turnover creating defense is the necessary pragmatic solution to rebalance a struggling roster, or if his known limitations, specifically a lack of size and consistency, make him fundamentally insufficient for the kind of stability this team urgently needs.
I'm going to argue that Ellis is the perfect calculated risk. A surgical acquisition that's really dictated by the Lakers' current constraints and perfectly suited to reducing the defensive load on their key offensive guys.
And I'll be arguing that by prioritizing these disruptive gambles over foundational containment, the Lakers are making a mistake born of desperation, one that fails to address the deep-seated weaknesses that physical, guard-heavy teams have been exploiting all season.
Look, Ellis is a necessary acquisition precisely because of the circumstances. The organization isn't just looking for any defender. They are aggressively scanning for a player who fits an exact profile. And, well, Ellis checks every immediate box. He is a legitimate 3-and-D wing. I mean, you can't argue with his career 41% accuracy from three-point range. That's essential for a team that just cannot afford to compromise its floor spacing. But the financial and asset math here is what makes this move almost irresistible. They get a 25-year-old with genuine upside for one protected pick way out in either 2031 or 2032. For a team that's, quote, operating with limited flexibility, this is an absolute bargain. And critically, the goal isn't just improving a number on a stat sheet, it's mitigating fatigue. The material points to the need to reduce defensive stress on high-usage offensive players, especially Austin Reaves. Ellis's high motor, disruptive style that provides immediate relief and defensive energy, and it allows their stars to focus their energy elsewhere.
I come at it from a different angle. While the price is low, and okay, the three-point percentage is attractive, the Lakers are, in effect, confusing occasional brilliance with consistent stability. Ellis's defensive style is certainly flashy. He's known for those highlight reel deflections and steals, but it doesn't address the fundamental need of their 22nd ranked defense, reliable containment. The division among scouts isn't about whether he can defend, it's whether he can consistently shut opponents down versus just creating turnovers when an offense gets lazy. The core concern, it centers on his size, his strength, and his ability to hold his ground against bigger wings and guards in a half-court set. This is exactly what has caused their defensive breakdowns to snowball quickly. And we also can't just ignore the contextual red flag here. Sacramento is selling low. Their willingness to trade him for a single, modest, protected pick. And his diminished role, he's averaging just 17.6 minutes a game. That strongly suggests the Kings themselves are unconvinced of his long-term stabilizing impact. If he couldn't stabilize their wing defense, why are the Lakers so confident he can cure their much more severe problems?
I think you're underestimating the immediate, tangible effect that targeted disruption can have on a defense that is clearly demoralized. Ellis's skill set, his quick hands, his great anticipation, his aggressive reads, it directly attacks the problem of defensive breakdowns that lead to these big momentum swings. His ability to generate turnovers doesn't just improve the defense in a vacuum, it shifts the emotional and statistical momentum of the entire game. I mean, those steals converted into fast breaks, which is precisely how this Lakers roster, loaded with transition threats, maximizes its offense. When the source material talks about a team desperate for a spark, that kind of disruption is gold. We are talking about solving a confidence problem as much as a structural one.
I recognize the appeal of those momentum shifts, I do. But I think you're misdiagnosing the primary source of the Lakers' defensive failure. The material clearly highlights that fast, speedy, and often physically imposing guards are consistently getting into the paint and exposing Los Angeles. Ellis, by many accounts, has known weaknesses in size and strength. So if we look at the advanced metrics, Ellis is what you'd call a high-variance defender. His deflections per 36 minutes are elite, sure, but his defensive box plus-minus is often pedestrian because opponents score pretty efficiently when he doesn't force a steal. The Lakers need a player who can hold an opposing star guard to a low field goal percentage on drives and switches. They need a wall, not just a nuisance that might get played off the floor. Relying on a player who generates turnovers but struggles with containment against the exact kind of attack that has led to these closed-door meetings, it just feels like substituting one high-risk problem for another. And that leads right into the issue of alleviating pressure on the starting lineup. I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that Ellis is the remedy for this systemic issue. The material acknowledges the starting five has inconsistent defenders in Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, and LeBron James. And when we say subpar, what we really mean is inconsistent engagement, which leads to these schemes that are just easily targeted. So can one player, especially one whose role was just cut to under 18 minutes a game in Sacramento, truly stabilize a unit that's being targeted at multiple spots, particularly Austin Reeves? The strain is just too glaring for Ellis alone to manage. You're basically asking a rotational player to fix a structural deficit built around your star offensive guys.
That's a compelling point about the size of the problem, but I would frame it differently. The expectation isn't that Ellis is some single savior for the entire defense. It's that he's the critical piece that allows them to rebalance the whole rotation. He doesn't need to guard the primary star for 48 minutes. He just needs to provide consistent, high-energy defensive shifts that allow Austin Reeves, the player the organization is reportedly most concerned about, to breathe. By just stabilizing one wing spot, the Lakers drastically reduced their need for those, quote, uncomfortable help schemes. You know, those aggressive doubles or constant rotations that compromise their entire defense and lead to wide-open threes. If Ellis guarantees fewer minutes of high-leverage defensive assignments for Reeves, that translates directly into better offensive performance and a reduced mental load for the entire team. The internal urgency about Reeves' defensive workload really proves the value of this specific targeted kind of acquisition. And we have to talk about the trade value and asset management here, because that modest price, a single protected first-round pick, is just crucial. I am not convinced that this low price is purely an indicator of Ellis's lack of talent. It's tied to his upcoming 2026 free agency and the Kings' clear hesitation to commit a substantial long-term contract to him. For the Lakers, a team operating with limited flexibility, this is a massive win in the asset management column. They secure a high-upside 41% three-point shooter and immediate defensive energy without moving a core rotation piece or sacrificing crucial near-future draft capital. This kind of move preserves their ability to stay selective for a future bigger move at the deadline or in the offseason. The price reflects leverage, not necessarily ceiling.
I'm just not sold on that line of reasoning. Because while asset preservation is important, acquiring a player who is discounted due to organizational skepticism is risky, and the context here matters immensely. Yes, the low price is linked to Sacramento's reluctance to pay him, but that reluctance stems from fundamental questions about his on-court consistency and his ability to contribute effectively within a rigorous half-court defensive scheme under coach Doug Christie. This is not a player at his peak value being traded for salary relief. This suggests a deep internal disagreement in Sacramento about his true impact, the very definition of that divisive evaluation the Lakers now have to figure out. I mean, if the organization that drafted him is willing to move him for a deeply protected pick a decade from now, it implies a limitation that the Lakers are willfully choosing to ignore because he's cheap. And that is the hallmark of a desperate move, buying someone else's problem because it looks affordable. So let's just focus squarely on the core defensive weakness again, because I believe this is the deal breaker. The Lakers are being aggressively scanned for perimeter defenders because they are vulnerable to mismatches. If Ellis's reported weaknesses, size and strength against penetration, are real concerns, then he fundamentally doesn't fix the root problem. He just shifts the attention. So what happens when teams put a big wing like Jason Tatum or Kevin Durant on him, forcing a switch or a post-up? His high disruption rate vanishes when containment is the only objective. The Lakers need a defender who can take the air out of an opposing star's possessions consistently, not just occasionally generate a timely steal. He is a high-variance player being asked to solve a low-variance stability crisis.
Okay, while acknowledging that his size profile isn't ideal against those elite physical wings, the most immediate critical crisis is the repeated exposure of players like Austin Reeves on the ball and the compromised team defense that results. Ellis provides immediate, dedicated on-ball defensive help against the opposing team's second or third perimeter threat, which is a massive upgrade over who they have now. And we have to be pragmatic about the market. The Lakers are scanning several targets: Andrew Wiggins, Derek Jones Jr., Josh Green, Ayo Dosunmu. Among all those names, Ellis provides the best combination of immediate disruptive defense, that coveted 41% three-point shot, and manageable trade capital. They can't afford to wait for the perfect, high-cost solution. Ellis is the most feasible move right now to provide the necessary rebalance and define the trajectory of their season.
They're prioritizing feasibility and immediate impact over some theoretical perfection. And, that is just sound management, given their constraints.
The urgency inside that organization is undeniably high, culminating in coach J.J. Redick's reported challenge to his veteran stars to raise their defensive commitment. Killian Ellis is a necessary, high-upside investment that directly attacks their glaring perimeter deficiencies and allows the roster to finally be rebalanced. By securing a legitimate 3-and-D wing for minimal assets, the Lakers maximize their offensive core by freeing up their star shooters from constant, exhausting defensive pressure. And while the need for change is undeniable, the Lakers have to exercise caution. Ellis's divisive reputation and his known limitations in size and consistency mean he might be an insufficient answer to an escalating defensive crisis. Focusing on disruption might secure you a few occasional victories, but it could fundamentally fail to deliver the defensive stability necessary to truly compete in those high-leverage moments when opponents are executing scripted game-winning possessions. I mean, the evidence from Sacramento suggests his limitations are significant.
The debate around acquiring Keon Ellis really just underscores the fine line the Lakers are walking between a necessary, calculated risk and desperation, given their extremely limited flexibility and immediate need to climb out of the bottom third of league defense.
Right. The material clearly